Apple's new iPhone 14 will show India is closing the technology gap with China. Apple Inc. plans to begin manufacturing the iPhone 14 in India as the US tech giant seeks alternatives to China following the Xi administration's clashes with Washington and nationwide lockdowns. But is India ready to take up this task? And what factors are surrounding this latest development? Stay tuned till the end of the video to find out. According to the report, which was cited by people familiar with the matter, the company has been working with suppliers to ramp up production in India and shorten the lag in manufacturing new iPhones from the typical 6 to 9 months for previous launches. This would be a great advancement in bringing more phones into the market faster. According to the report, Apple's Taiwanese supplier, Foxconn, has studied the process of shipping items from China and assembling the iPhone 14 at its plant outside of Chennai, India. The first iPhone 14s from India is expected to be completed in late October or November, according to the report. When asked about the latest developments, Apple did not respond immediately to requests for comment. The company has moved some iPhone production from China to other markets, including India, the world's second-largest smartphone market, and plans to assemble iPad tablets there as well. As contract manufacturers try to diversify production away from China, India and countries such as Mexico and Vietnam are becoming increasingly important. Nikkei reported last week that Apple's suppliers are in talks to produce the Apple Watch and Macbook in Vietnam for the first time. This is a process, and it's expected to help meet demands of customers all over the world. Apple has traditionally relied on China to manufacture devices, but due to rising tensions between the two countries, the company is looking into new options. Furthermore, to control the spread of COVID-19, China imposed strict lockdowns in parts of the country, disrupting economic activity and affecting Apple's manufacturing and distribution processes in and out of China. Apple is also working with suppliers to expand manufacturing in India. This will allow the company to capitalize on the Diwali festival season in India, which begins on October 24. While Apple has been assembling iPhones in India through Foxconn and other partners since 2017, there is still a time lag between product release and availability in the country. Apple devices are typically released in India 6 to 9 months after their initial release date. Reduced availability means the company will be able to capture a larger market share, which is critical as the country approaches the commercial launch of 5G. India has been attempting to position itself as an alternative to China for device and electronics manufacturing. This has been seen in the way they promote their market and policies made by their government to encourage investors into the country. To promote the manufacturing of devices and electronics, the government has launched several initiatives, including the Production-Linked Incentive (PLI) scheme. This scheme is attractive, and it has had a positive impact so far in the Indian market. Foxconn, an Apple partner, joined the scheme about 2 years ago. However, as US firms try to shift manufacturing out of China, India is facing stiff competition from Vietnam and other countries in the region. Other countries that Apple are interested in are doing all they can to make sure they are given priority in production of devices, making it a bit challenging for India. The main issue that device manufacturers face is a lack of an effective supply chain. Apple's partners, Foxconn and Wistron, faced labor-related issues in the country a few years ago when workers protested against the company's salaries and the quality of food they provided. Analysts like Ming-Chi Kuo of TF International Securities Group believe Apple will ship the next iPhone from China and India at roughly the same time, which would be a significant milestone in Apple's efforts to diversify its supply chain and build redundancy. According to the people who asked not to be identified because the efforts are confidential, Foxconn Technology Group, the primary manufacturer of iPhones, studied the process of shipping components from China and assembling the iPhone 14 device at its plant outside the southern Indian city of Chennai. This included looking into ways to maintain Apple's high confidentiality standards. Matching China's iPhone production rate would have been a significant achievement for India, which has been touting its attractiveness as an alternative at a time when rolling COVID lockdowns and US sanctions threaten China's position as the world's factory. Assembling iPhones frequently necessitates coordination among hundreds of suppliers, as well as meeting Apple's infamously strict deadlines and quality controls. Some Apple and Foxconn employees hoped to start simultaneous production in India this year, but that was never an official plan. According to one of the sources, Apple wanted to focus on getting the China operations up and running first, then work out the India production. But how and when did the production of Apple phones and accessories start in India? In 2017, Apple's partners began manufacturing iPhones in India, kicking off a multi-year effort to build manufacturing capabilities in the country. In addition to providing backup for existing operations, the country of 1.4 billion people is a promising consumer market, and the Modi administration has offered financial incentives for tech production through its Make in India program. One barrier to lowering India's production cap is secrecy. Apple goes to great lengths to keep new product details private, and implementing the same stringent controls in a second country would be difficult. Keeping these details private is part of their business strategy to keep consumers alert and interested in the product. According to some people, local executives in India investigated completely cornering off a section of Foxconn's multiple assembly lines, sequestering workers, and scrutinizing all possible ways in which the device's security could be compromised. According to one of the people, the drastic security controls and stringent seclusion of its China facilities would be difficult to replicate. Apple has also expressed concern about Indian customs officials who typically open packages to check whether imported materials match their declarations, posing yet another risk to product secrecy. Even if Apple and Foxconn had planned a simultaneous launch in both countries, supply chain issues would have thwarted the plan. China, the source of many iPhone components, has experienced a series of lockdowns, making the process of shipping components through the country more difficult. The highly regulated methods that Apple wants from suppliers have not been simply implemented by India's workers and factories. On two notable occasions since Apple began making iPhones in India through contract manufacturers Foxconn and Wistron Corp 5 years ago, employees have protested over wages and food quality. The stage is set for the September 7 launch of the iPhone 14, as Apple has sent out invitations to its annual event. Apple set a target of manufacturing iPhones worth 47,000 rupees crore in India in FY23 earlier this year. According to Bloomberg, Apple has been working with suppliers to ramp up manufacturing in India. A new iPhone production outside of China typically takes a few months to begin. Foxconn began manufacturing the iPhone 13 in India months after it was released in all markets. Although Apple's flagship iPhone 13 was released in September 2021, the Cupertino-based company began trial production in India 3 months later. Previously, new iPhone models were only assembled in India 7 to 8 months after they hit the market. Manufacturing iPhones in India will allow the company to reduce costs and avoid paying taxes on units imported from other countries. However, this does not imply that the company will sell the smartphone at a lower price. The selling price will remain the same. However, it appears that iPhone production in countries other than China is aimed at serving local markets, as it may not be sufficient to meet global demand. As a result, Apple has shifted iPhone production away from China and into other markets, including India. In 2017, Apple began assembling iPhones in India with the release of its low-cost iPhone SE. The iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 are produced at the Foxconn-owned Chennai facility, while the iPhone SE and iPhone 12 are produced at the Wistron facility in Karnataka. Apple began manufacturing the iPhone 13 in India on April 11 of this year, making it the fourth model to be produced in the country. Although another iPhone will be assembled in the country, the price of locally made iPhones may not be reduced. Apple would continue to rely on Chinese production because the majority of iPhone components are made in the country. Despite being manufactured in India, the iPhone 13 retained its launch price of 79,900 rupees. After a few months, when Apple began assembling the phone in India, prices began to fall. Similarly, the price of the locally manufactured iPhone 14 may not fall. iPhones are expensive in India because Apple imports them from China after paying import duties. A fully assembled mobile phone is subject to nearly 20% customs duty. Because Apple's OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, pay high import duties on components, assembling the iPhone 14 in India is unlikely to lower its price. Aside from the import duty, there is an 18% GST, other fees, and Apple's profit margin. As a result, the cost of locally manufactured iPhones remains high. Furthermore, Apple relies on third-party retail networks in India to sell its smartphones and other products, which raises the price of iPhones. The Chinese economy's slump, along with a breakdown in the supply chain and frequent power outages, temperatures, aggravated by the heat wave, has made the industrial climate challenging. China's zero-COVID tolerance policy, on the other hand, has harmed companies the most. According to Wyan, the total lockdowns in Shanghai and Kunshan may have been the final straw that caused Apple to reconsider its ambitions for production on the Chinese mainland. If conditions improve, Apple may expand the capacity of its production factories in India or perhaps establish new ones. Until recently, the corporation has had millions of iPhones made in China and sold all over the world. However, given Apple's growing confidence in the Indian manufacturing plant, new iPhone assembly lines in India may not be far off. In 2022, Apple appears to be moving its attention to iPhone Pro models. According to Ming-Chi Kuo's newest report, the next A16 Bionic chipset will be limited to the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Building on that, the vanilla iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Max may use last year's A15 Bionic chipset, giving performance comparable to the iPhone 13 series. Until recently, both the ordinary and Pro models of the iPhone came with the most recent processor.